Hello everyone, hope that you all are doing good. So in today's video, we'll understand how to apply role-based authentication using JWT token. So I have already covered in my previous video where we have worked on how to use JWT token for your authentication and authorization. Now this is an extended video wherein we'll be using role-based authentication with JWT authentication. So it will be a combined authentication, right? But before jumping into the video, I would like to request you that if you find my videos knowledgeable, it takes a lot of efforts to oversimplify the topics. Do hit the like, share and comment on the video. And if new to the channel, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. Your support is needed for this channel to grow. Please share videos among your contacts so that people could have knowledge of working on Spring Boot. Now let's discuss what is role-based authentication with JWT by a flow graph. So let me open a flow graph. So this is the flow graph. When we discussed in the previous video, there also we discussed that how JWT works, right? That was that we'll be sending a request to a server wherein a server would be generating an JWT token, and the JWT token would be returned to you. Using that JWT token, you can hit any request, right? But now the addition to this version is that the JWT token which will be generated, that also contains the content of role into it, right? So if an admin user is hitting the request to generate a JWT token, then there would be a role in that JWT token as well. That is an admin role, right? So to explain you the flow, first we'll be hitting a request to register a user based on any role, be it admin role or a user role in our databases. Then there will be an API, that is a /gen token API, that will be generating the JWT token with username password would be given an input to this API. This API would be first verifying your user from the database, and then taking that full details from the database. It will generate a JWT token along with your username, password and role, right? And all other factors that are there in the JWT, be it your algorithm that has been used, your secret that has been used, right? And then that token would be returned to you, and using that token you will be able to hit the APIs that are being meant for an admin user, meant for a user role, right? So if a admin role user is being trying to access a particular API which is only given access to the role user, then it will say 403, that is forbidden request, right? So now we'll be working on that, how the JWT token would be generated plus with the role based authentication. Code part, I won't be discussing the code in depth. I'll link the video which we did. That was a full length video wherein we discussed that how to use JWT from scratch, how to generate JWT token, what all contents are there in your JWT token. So I'll link that video in the description and also in the I button. Do click and watch that video first, and then come to this video for the addition of role-based authentication plus JWT token, right? So let me show you the code structure. So the code structure looks like this. We have different packages wherein we have config package, implementation for our main class, then our controllers, model, repository and service, right? So all those things were previously also there, right? There is an addition in the code. No extra classes are being added to the code, right? Just that the code addition is being done, and I'll push that code into a repository of Git, and the link would be given in the description. Do check out the code as well. So to give you a glimpse at what all is there, let me go to the model class. So we have a role class, we have a user class. So user has a dependency, many-to-many relationship with role, right? And then we have the role class as well. So we have the role class wherein we have an ID and a role, and then we have repository. We have role repository and user repository. So we have made find by role and find by username method in the respective repositories. Then we have our default service implementation, default service interface and implementation, where we have the method, overridden method of load user by username, wherein we are taking the user name and password and the roles of the user, right? And then we have a method of saving the data for the user, right? So it will be used in the registration call, wherein the data would be supplied in the user register DTO, and then it will save the data into the database, right? So now let me take you to the controller part, or rather first the config part. So now all these classes were present in that JWT authentication video as well. I would highly request that you should go and watch that video first. Now let's go to the security config class. So here we have a security config class defined, that is our configuration, basic configuration class. We have some methods. I'll not go in depth. We have some methods. We have applied a filter before all the requests that will be served, right? So this filter will be called on all the requests where the JWT authentication is being required. But also we have said that okay, for slash registration and slash gen token you don't need a JWT authentication. So you can these requests are being permitted without any authentication. Any other request falling on this application would be authenticated with JWT token, and when the authentication process starts, it goes into the filter, right? So the filter class is this, right? So the filter class is JWT filter. So this is the JWT filter is being extended by this class. So we have a do internal filtration overridden method here, right? So what it is doing is if I go to the generation of the token, let me go to first generation of the token. Let me go to the controller. So as my gen token API, so this is my registration of the user API. This is simple API, right? To register a user into the database, right? Then we have the gen token API, right? So slash gen token API. So a JWT token is being generated. So how that JWT token is being generated? First, what we do is the credentials that are being provided in the gen token API. First, we verify those, right? If that is being verified that okay, that user is present in our database with that particular username and password, then we say that okay, go and generate a token with this authentication, right? So we go in generate token method, and what it does is and then it goes to create token method, and here what we are doing is we are fetching all the roles from this authentication object, right? We are fetching all the roles here. Previously what we were doing, we were not adding any claim here, right? We were not adding any claim of a role. We were simply adding the subject, we the expiration time, the creation time, and the sign with, right? Now what we have done is we have also added claims to it, right? So claims contains our roles. Roles are being fetched from this authentication object, which is being passed by the gen token. Gen token has already authenticated the user that the user is present in the database, and then it has given us the authentication token, and from that authentication token I have fetched all the roles, and I am adding those roles into the claim, right? So the roles are added into the claims, and the token is being created and returned, right? So the token is being created and returned, so the token is being returned here, right? So when we run the application, I'll tell you that what all things are there in the token by going on the jwt.io website, right? So this is my API to generate the token. Now when the API is being called, like if I say that okay, slash welcome admin API is being called, here we have the pre-authorization that okay, the authority to this particular API is that the role of the user should be role admin, right? So if I go to the security class again, so it says that any request coming to you, please add a filter before it. So the filter class, what it does is, let me go to the filter class. So filter class has an overridden method of do internal filtration. So what it will do is it will first from the headers it will fetch the authorization, and from the authentication header we'll fetch the token here, right? So we are ignoring the bearer token part, that is this, and we are fetching the substring here. So we have the token. Now what we'll do is we'll simply extract the username. So request has been given to extract the username here, right? So if I go here, and what it does is it takes the token string and first it extract the claims, then it extracts all the claims that are present, right? And then the username is being returned, right? So the username is being returned here in the filter class, right? So the username is there. Now what we'll do is we'll say that okay, if the username is not null, load user by username. So that this is the overridden method in the service. So this is the overridden method, load user by username. What we are doing is we are fetching the user from the database, If present, then we'll return the user details object, that is the default object provided by Spring. So we are returning that default object with some roles of the user, right? So the user is being returned here, right? The user details are there. Now what we'll do is we'll validate the token. Now if our request is there, then before any operation to be performed, first of all what is needed is that first the token is valid or not. Token validation would be checked like the username of the user that is being there in the token. Is it valid? The token, the user is present in the database or not? So first what will happen is it will go to the validate token method. So it will go to validate token method, it will extract the username, and then it will check that okay, the username present and the user details username, are they matching? If they are matching and the token is not expired, then okay, the token is being validated, right? So it says the token is being validated here. Now what we are doing is this is the addition part that we have done for our role based authentication plus JWT. So what we are doing here is we are first checking that okay, we are making an object of username password authentication token, and here we have made a method which is saying get authentication token. Let me go into this method. So what it is doing is it is again calling the same method extract claims, right? So it is extracting all the claims, and from those claims I am extracting the roles, right? The authorities of the user. So you can see that the key that I am using is role, right? And this role key is being there in the claim as well, right? So what we are doing here is we are fetching the authorities from the claim, right? Now the authorities are being fetched, then I am returning a username password authentication token object with authorities with user details, right? So user details contains our username and password and everything, and our authorities which we have fetched from claims, right? So this object is being returned in the filter, right? So let me go again into the filter class. So this object is being returned, and then what we are doing is we are just setting the details with the web authentication detail source and build request, right? The request which we are getting and the username password authentication token object which we have prepared, right? And then we are performing security context dot set authorization, right? So if this says that okay, the authorization is correct, then only the further process would go for the request, right? If it says that okay, the token was valid and the token contains the role that is of admin and the user details that are coming to for the particular request, that is slash admin welcome admin API is being hit by an admin user, and the token also contains the admin role and the username is also present and the username matches with the person who's trying to hit that API, then it authenticates that API and it says that okay, the API you can hit the API as your authorities are role admin, right? So your authorities are present in the database with your name, so you can hit this API. Same goes for the user role as well. So all this process goes on and the filtration part is being done, right? So the filtration part says that okay, you have to first, we were just validating the username and password, and if that was validated, we say that this request is success. Now you can hit any controller, right, with that particular token. Now we say that okay, if that request is valid with that particular username, now we have to check that that username had that particular authorities which you are passing for that JWT token, and if those authorities also match, then we say that the request is success and you can hit any URL that permits your authorities, right? So if a user with the role user is being hitting this particular API, that is the welcome user, then the particular user would be allowed to hit. And if a admin user is trying to hit this API, then it will say 403 request forbidden, right? So this was a small code changes that we did for the role based authentication, right? JWT role based authentication, you can say it, right? So your JWT token contains your username also for validation, and also the role for your user that you have registered in for the application. So this actually makes I would say double the authentication that we did for JWT, a simple JWT token, right? Now the code part we have already covered. Let me show you the main class as well. So we have the main package, main class. Let me take you to application.properties. So we are making a database of Postgres. So we have Postgres database, then our connection properties, right? And if I take you to my pom.xml, let me take you to the pom.xml. So here in the pom.xml we have property maven dependency of JWT and my database Postgres dependency, and some basic dependencies that we need to run our project, right? We need the JPA dependency, then our Spring Security dependency, then our this is not required, right? Theme diff dependency is not required, as I'm not using any UI to represent this application. We have simply made some REST APIs to hit for this project, right? So we'll be using Postman to hit the project, right? So now as the code part has been discussed, let me now run the application, right? So let me take you to the main class, and let me run the app. So now my application is up, right? My application is running. So first let me go and check my tables are being made or not. So let me check here. So let me go on to tables, right? So let me see. Yes, my tables are there. The basic thing that has been required is that should be an entry in my table, right? A role table should have an entry of 2 roles. That is, first one is for admin and the second one is for role user, right? So if you want to verify that what to enter, then let me first take you to the service implementation, and what we have checked here is, right? So we have to enter these values, right? So role user and role admin, right? So let me put this value here and let me run it, right? Then I have to put the role admin, right? So this is the manual part that you have to do, right? So you have to make these 2 entries in your table. Now what you have to do is we have to register a user. So our server is up, so let's go to Postman and let's say register a user, right? So let's go on the registration API, that is /registration, and we have a username as Raman and password as 1234, email ID as raman@gmail.com, and the role as user. So let me first make a user of admin, right? So the role is admin. So if I say submit, so my user has been registered, right? So the user has been registered with the role as role admin. So you can see that I have passed here admin, and the entry in the database is of role admin. So here I have written the code like that. So if the entry is provided for an admin from the DTO, then you have to enter the role as role admin, right? So the role admin entry is being done. So user has been registered with the role admin. So let me register a user with user as well, right? So I will say user role, and I'll say raman19@gmail.com, and the password remains 123456. So let me send this request. So now another user is being registered with the role as user role, right? So now what we have to do is we have to generate a token, right? So for generating a token, you need to pass your username and password. So you need to pass your username and your password. So first I will be generating for admin, and when the token is being generated, I'll take you to jwt.io and we'll see that what all is there in your token. So my username is Raman and my password is 123456. So for the token that would be generated now would be for an admin user. So let me click on get request. So yes, the token is being generated, and let me go on jwt.io. So here we are. So let me put my token here, right? So let me put my token here. So now you can see that the algorithm used is HS256, and you can see this entry, right? So there is a role also. So there is a role entry also, that is a role admin, and the subject is Raman that we have entered. Then we have the expiry date, the creation date of the token, that is of 647, and the expiry is of 652, right? And then there is a secret here that we have entered. The secret is code with Raman. While we were discussing the code, I showed you that what is the secret value that we have entered. So this is my JWT token. Now what we have to do is we have to make a get call only, and the get call would be for, so if you want to access the admin only, so you have to go and hit this endpoint, right? /welcome admin. So if I go and I hit this endpoint, first of all, we don't need any data, so mark this as none and go in the authorization part, select here bearer token, right? And enter this token here, right? Select this token and enter this token here, right? And hit this request. right? So it says welcome admin, right? So admin was given access for this particular API, so admin can access it. Now let's check for this, give access to an admin user right here. So let me hit this API. So yes, so it says 403 forbidden, right? So the request says that okay, you can't hit the user request as you have an admin authorities. Now if I go on gen token again, and if I say body, if I say Raman1, right? So this is the user with a role user. So let me select now this token and let me paste it in the JWT tab, right? So now you can see that the role here has changed. So role has changed to role user, right? And the subject is Raman1, right? And then the expiration and your creation time, and then the algorithm and your secret, right? So if I use this particular token to hit that user API, so let me select this and let me go on the user API. So it should work, right? It should say that okay, it is perfect token for this request. So if I hit this request, so it says okay, it's 200, okay, the request is being passed and welcome user is being displayed. But now if I hit the admin request with this token, it shouldn't allow it, right? So it shouldn't allow this request, right? So let me put this token here. So it says 403 forbidden. So this is how you can implement your JWT along with your role, right? So it is JWT role based authentication, right? So this was it from this video. It was a small video. We didn't discuss much about the code part because the code part is being discussed already from scratch till how you can generate your token with the username and password authentication, right? In the previous video, I'll link that video in the I button as well as in the description. Go check out. And this was it. Please, if you find my videos knowledgeable, please like, share among your contacts so that many people could watch this concepts and could learn this concepts. And if you find any queries, if you find anything that you need to learn more, any suggestions, do comment down on the video. And if new to the channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Hope to see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning.